Hello and good morning. I'm excited to give my talk titled Seeing Musical Rhythm, Audiovisual Disruption in Thumper. On the screen is footage from rhythm violence game Thumper, released for PlayStation 4 in 2016, Nintendo Switch in 2017, and iOS in 2018. The game programmer is Mark Fleury, who realized artist Brian Gibson's composition and concept art. This excerpt is from a full S-rank playthrough performance by YouTuber HumansAreDumb, recorded in July 2017. Through rich use of formal and semantic audiovisual incongruence, Thumper presents a complicated task to its players. See the rhythm, play the rhythm, and don't look back. Entrusted with guiding a beetle at the center of the screen along with the track filled with light-up musically articulated notes in the form of obstacles, curved walls, and spikes. Players navigate each level by visually identifying notes and aurally placing them within their correct location in the metrical context and on the controller. Rhythm games typically highlight missed notes and combinations aurally. In Thumper, disruption is both a singular transmusical visual tactile event as well as a process. Disruption constitutes a ludonarrative process reliant on players looking and listening ahead. Drawing on Battey's spatial metaphors to describe music in terms of its agreement, disagreement, consonance, dissonance, and fusion independence, I argued that the use of audiovisual incongruence encourages players to see, hear, and feel audiovisual disruptions as musical disruptions. I want to acknowledge that each player as listener experiences disruption in their own way because they hear in their own unique way. An audiovisual analytical approach foregrounds the experience of disruption as both event-based and generative, while capturing the viscerally felt disruptive dimension of the procedural programming used in the game's visual design and soundtrack. In this presentation, I first offer a close reading of disruption as a moment situated in a specific game mechanic. Then, I give a comparative analysis of two players' responses to the game to illuminate how audiovisual disruption and seeing musical rhythm can help guide player interactions in rhythm games. YouTuber HumansAreDumb guides the beetle at the center of the screen along a track filled with light-up notes made of obstacles, curved walls, and spikes, which are placed along the track to complement the rhythmic profile of the level. The game uses procedural programming, meaning that if the beetle misses more than 2 notes, the game will require them to repeat the segment until they have beaten a level. This is level 9-10, and in Thumper, each level corresponds to the music's time signature, meaning that all of level 9 is set in 9-8. In this small segment of HumansAreDumb's several-hour-long performance, they sustain damage, allowing us to see how this disruption is both visual and auditory. Though the notes spatially suggest a rhythm, it is almost impossible to read the notes within a time signature. Players rely on a familiar process of visually identifying what kind of obstacle is approaching, which tells them which direction to move or what button to press. Then, players aurally place their articulation of the object on the controller within the correct location in the metrical framework. This is explicitly shown in the beginning levels of the game. Alignment between the notes and the underlying meter of the music is brought to the foreground when HumansAreDumb misses a note. The spikes and curved walls appear aurally and visually at the same time. The player hears and sees their appearance on the track and then repeats the rhythm as the beetle passes through that section. I read this as what Shinichiro Iwamiya calls formal congruence, quote, the matching of auditory and visual temporal structures, end quote. This audiovisual alignment is especially important as the connection between obstacle shape and sound is bolstered by an immediate repetition delivered by the player. Other obstacles might appear visually in an attempt to throw players off. Their presence in the soundtrack is simultaneous with players' articulation of the obstacle, and the immediate visual area lights up with blue and white debris to signify correctness. Not only does the debris show players they've successfully navigated part of the track, it contrasts the red and black background artwork to highlight the position of the beetle. This strikes me as a form of semantic congruence, what Iwamiya defines as, quote, the similarity between auditory and visual affective impressions, end quote. Semantic audio-visual congruence tests the player's ability to metrically locate the action required by the notation and correctly press the right direction to navigate musical and visual disagreement. I believe this demonstrates the difficulty of trying to read the notes as a form of notation independently of the musical events that occur at the same time as, or in anticipation of, action from the player. The hues of the track and its surroundings can complicate the player's ability to see a rhythmic object, meaning that players might rely on their ears to figure out when to move. The lines make it really hard to see, even though the game's extremely fast scrolling speed and third-person point of view encourage a wider field of vision. There is clear semantic congruence. The artwork looks like it's been set in hell, and effectively speaking, the game can be quite anxiety-inducing due to its speed and emphasis on rote learning of patterns at an incredibly fast pace. In Thumper, it is clear that the audio and visual have a co-constitutive relationship. The apparent incongruences, a disruption in the track, affirm audio-visual congruence as the norm to be disrupted. As Iwamiya points out, the speed of the music affects our visual perception of the object's speed. By relying on what they hear, players can navigate past a curved wall that is more difficult to see than hear, as HumansAreDumb illustrates in this clip. In this section, I show two YouTubers' interpretation of a rhythmic disruption in level 9-6 of Thumper. I've transcribed their performances in Figure 1. YouTuber Blue Aura navigates the section without any mistakes, but does not opt to include the ring on the second eighth note, shown with the left thumbstick up icon. In contrast, YouTuber Eric Hansen opts to include the ring, but this offsets their articulation of the rhythm and results in a missed thump on the accented second eighth note of the second beat. This is what Battey identifies as fluid counterpoint, or relatively strong but still smooth points of articulation in a continuum as the primary means for establishing relationships. In Hansen's performance, disruption is both a singular musical, visual, tactile event and a process. The game inserts a sound into the soundtrack when they miss the thump, thrusting Hansen into a recovery mode for the rest of the section. The game provides instant feedback to players about their timing, but the speed at which the notes are placed in front of the player make passages like the section shown in Figure 1 extremely difficult. Just within this 5-second clip, the notated player input, what the game expects from the perfect performance, requires players to navigate obstacles that occur at the duple division within a triple meter context. This is a particularly tricky passage, as players are thrust immediately back into triple divisions. The resulting performances by Blue Aura and Eric Hansen show how the same notated rhythm can yield very different aural performances. Players can create their own improvised musical product by skipping or missing certain notes while still receiving credit. The panelization of disrupted rhythm in Hansen's performance shows that this section's primary goal is to require players to articulate a duple meter. The ring note, as an optional note, gives players the freedom to create their own performance, as well as offers a mechanism to assess or reassess a metrical context. Though Thumper provides instant feedback through the insertion of disruptive sounds to signal missed points and incorrectly articulated rhythms, the textural participatory discrepancies in the form of rings allow players more agency than previously all or nothing rhythm games to create their own musical and choreographed performances of a certain level. Both performances receive an S rank. In conclusion, Thumper presents a complicated task to its players through rich use of formal audiovisual congruence as well as moments of semantic congruence. Drawing on Battey's use of spatial metaphors, as well as Shinichiro's formal and semantic incongruence, I explore how audiovisual relationships and rhythm games may be reinforced by the immersive effect of disruptive effects. Moments of audiovisual disagreement encourage players to react in the moment in the role of a listener-analyst. The procedural rhetoric of Thumper, keep moving and don't look back, reinforces fast reflexes as a form of reactive musical interpretations. Thank you for your time.